Hi, my name is Jim Corbett. I'm the Director of Business Development with CaseMaker. I'm here today at the Texas Bar to talk about some aspects of using CaseMaker as your online legal research tool. This is part 2 of the program, in which we'll talk about how to effectively formulate a search and then review and look through the material that you've found as a result of that search. So we'll talk about the effective search techniques, the strategy that you use, the connectors that you use to implement that search, and then, as I said, the reviewing the search results, navigating and saving and sharing your search results. This is the home screen that you will find on CaseMaker. This central portion of the screen is where you browse through material, which was covered in part 1 of this program. Part 2 that we're doing now will focus on formulating a search, and that search is placed up in this search bar. And in another section, we'll talk about saving and reviewing your search results. So as I mentioned, there are 3 functional areas: browsing the content, searching the content, and managing search results. Right now, we're going to talk about searching through the full text of the data that's available, all the content that's available on CaseMaker. The most effective way to do online searching is using what are referred to as Boolean search connectors. Those are things like and then a within number, or it's called a proximity connector, to put your terms in a proximity to one another in the context of the opinion or the data in which you're searching. One of the things I like to talk about in this area of legal research is the strategy that you are trying to accomplish here, that your goal is to be very precise in the answers that you get, yet at the same time to have a very comprehensive search so that you know that you've covered all bases and you haven't left any important cases out. That would be the perfect research session. But it's important to note that there is no single path to success. There's not one search that you can do that will get every single case you need. This is an iterative process in which you will look at some material, put in some search terms, look at some cases, get some new ideas, learn from the material that you're reading that here are some additional terms, here are some other ideas that I didn't think of before, and then you can incorporate those into a new search. And so it's a very much of a give and take process. But the important thing to remember is that there's no penalty for trying new or different approaches. Back in the day, there was a time when there was a financial penalty for doing search after search, but that is not true. With CaseMaker, you can search as many times as you want, and there's no impact on the price for doing that. This is a brief sampling of the connectors that we have available: the AND connector, the OR connector, how to create a phrase out of search terms, and the proximity connector, which you'll see that you can use either a slash and then a number, or a W slash and then a number. And then the truncation device, which gives you any ending on a root word. And it's important to remember that that root word does not have to be an actual English language word. If you use the word educate, EDUCAT asterisk, and ended it at where the E would be, you'll get the word educate, you'll get educated, education, educational, all endings on that word. And I like to emphasize that the combination of the proximity connector with the truncation device is a hugely powerful combination that allows you to cast a very broad net, but be very precise about the way the conversation is happening around your search terms. And that is really what your goal is. So here's some sample searches that you could use. Trademark within 10 of infringe with an asterisk and logo. Now this is going to give you any ending on the word infringe, infringed, infringing, infringement. So rather than simply typing in the phrase trademark infringement, This allows you to capture those situations where they say, this party infringed on the trademark of the other, blah, 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 in order to, when they did this. So the same thing as you see in the third example here, contract or agreement with intent of breach, asterisk. And that allows for breach to come first, or contract or agreement to come first, and those words would be within 10 of each other in the context of the opinion. In the middle example, you see equal protection is put in quotations. The default connector that is used by CaseMaker is the AND connector. That means that if you just put equal protection with no quotations, the system would automatically look for the word equal and the word protection anywhere they appeared in the opinion. And you don't want that. That's not the result that you want. You want equal protection to be a phrase. So you put that within quotations. And then within 25. The number that you choose, whether it's a 10 or a 25 or a 4 or anything, depends on your experience of reading these cases, of understanding the legal concepts that you're looking for, and those kind of factors. So it's simply a judgment call. If you choose a number and you intuitively believe that there should be more cases than what you're finding, you can simply go back and change that number. You can make it larger, smaller, and that will affect the answer set that you get. And it will either tighten or broaden the conversation about your legal topic. Down below, you can see two searches that use the same words, but they're structured differently: government contract and confidentiality. So government contract seems like a term of art that you could rely upon, but because I mentioned that we have an AND connector as the default connector, this would give you any occurrence of the word government and any occurrence of the word contract anywhere that they appeared in the opinion, not next to each other, not necessarily next to each other, and the word confidentiality somewhere else. In the second example, you see I've used quotations, and I also have an asterisk at the end of the word contract. That gives me government contract or government contractor within 35 of confident, and I can expand that to include confidential, confidentiality, etc. So you can see how the results of those two searches would be very different. And the second one would be much to your advantage, I believe. Okay, we're going to go online now and see a few searches. We'll conduct a search online. I'll show you how to formulate the search and then how to review the retrieved documents, look at the display order, and a few things that are specific to Texas online legal research and how to cite cases in Texas. As I mentioned earlier, this is the home screen of CaseMaker, and you see the browse area in the middle of the screen and the search area at the top. In order to choose a jurisdiction in which to search, you click on this drop-down arrow right here, and it will bring up a menu of the jurisdictions available. As you can see, I have Texas selected here. If you wanted to, you can search in any number of jurisdictions if you just wanted to pick some at random, or if there was a particular rationale for choosing certain, maybe you're doing a search on oil-related things and you wanted to search in any states that had oil industry, that kind of thing. And so that would be another way to do, select any that you want. One thing I like to point out to people is that when you have chosen a jurisdiction, a state jurisdiction, you can also click on this box at the top of the screen, which would give you the related federal jurisdictions to the states that you have chosen. So if you had chosen several different states, by choosing the selected, the related federal, you would also get the district courts, the circuit courts of those jurisdictions, as well as the U.S. Supreme Court. For today's example, I'm just going to search in Texas. So I click on that and click Save. It appears up here. And now I can type in my search into the search box. Okay, so my search says the word search with an asterisk for searched or searching within 10 of car or automobile. One of the things you have to consider when you're entering a search is any synonyms that would be likely to appear in the context of a case, and then you include those in your search, and then within 7 of cause. So, and of course I could put in car or automobile or vehicle or those kind of things, and I'll show you ways that you can add those later. Okay, so I click on the search, and there I found 266 cases in Texas. And you can see the first 2 of them are displayed here. There, on this case, Fry v. State, you'll see there's a green thumbs up, and on Osmond v. State, there's a red thumbs down. I will talk about those later in the context of our discussion about citators. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the list of all 266. Now, of course, I wouldn't, in a normal research process or project, I would not look at 266 cases. But by opening this View All option, what it does is it provides me with additional search functionality that you'll see in just a second here. First off, let me show you that the display, here are the first 20 of the 266 cases right here. On the left-hand side, though, I have a display that breaks them down by the jurisdiction. So I can look at, there's one of those 266 is from the 14th District, and so on. I can look at all of those cases, and you can see the list of them down there. So there's the largest number of them comes, of course, from the Court of Criminal Appeals. So I also have the option to include additional search terms. So if I put in an additional word, I will narrow down the 266 cases to those which include the word drug or drugs. And now I found 124 cases. The same thing applies down here. I can look at the particular jurisdictions. If I wanted to see the cases just from a particular jurisdiction, I can just click on that box and I would go right there. Or I can add more terms if I wanted to further narrow that. So if I stick in the word trunk, now I found 45 cases. In my experience, I will look at cases when I get them down to about 50 or fewer. And the reason is because looking at the case on the screen, the display we give you, will allow you to decide very quickly whether or not this case is on point. One of the easiest things to do is determine when a case is not on point, and then you can simply go past it and just ignore it and move on to the next one. So anytime you want to open up an opinion here, you can do so simply by clicking on it. I'm just picking this one at random, and you can see there's the full text of the opinion, and you can scroll. You'll see the pagination is tracked throughout the document. And cases are hyperlinked within the document so that if I want to go to this case, here's Fierro v. State, I simply click on that and I will now be looking at that document. And then I can simply go back. So you're free to wander and follow any train of thought as it develops as you're reading these cases. And we already mentioned earlier, but I'll do it again. If you wanted to print, email, or save this document, you can do so here. The print function, you can get a nice dual column print of this. Now, if you wanted to present a copy of this to opposing counsel or to the court, you can do so very easily. This is the third of 45. If you look here, you'll see I am currently looking in the full text of this document, but if I wanted to just look at the places where my search terms came up, to look at those in context, Here you can see your search terms are in red. Trunk, drug, there's cause to search the car. There's your search terms right in the proximity that you had depicted in your search. And then if you want to go back to the full text at any point, you can do that. This symbol on the right-hand side of the screen is a graph that will show you the number of times where this case has been cited. And you can see that actually, here, this will show you that it was cited 2 times in 1974, 1 time in 82, 89. I guess the most recent time this was cited was in 1990. There's also a list up at the top here that tells you, here's the citing references, so that I know that in Texas there is a requirement for you to provide information about the subsequent history of any case that you cite. And so you can find information about that simply by clicking on that citing references at the top, which will give you the list in reverse chronological order. So the most recent cases that have cited your case right there. And so that's very handy. You'll see that you are looking at these cases at the first 20 of 45. If you want to advance to the next 20, simply click on this arrow right here, and that will bring you to the next display of 20 cases. The default display order of the cases is relevance ranking, which is based on an algorithm that tells you about the number of times your search terms have come up. If you would prefer to look at them in reverse chronological order, you simply click on this date decided, and it will redisplay the cases in reverse chronological order. So most recent case first. And you noted when I pulled that down, there's also another way to do that, which is the most often cited. So a couple of different ways that you can look at those. I mentioned earlier that there's no single path to success, that there are ways for you to read some of these cases, learn some information, maybe learn some new search terms that you could use, or learn some different approaches that you could take. And one of the ways that you can do that is, now that I've gone down this path and I want to go back, I can simply uncheck some of these boxes here and go right back up to the top level that I had. You'll see that this will redisplay and bring me right back to the 266 cases I started out with my original search. What that tells you and what that underscores is the importance of starting out with a very broad search and then narrowing from there. I think a mistake that people make in online legal research is they try to throw everything in, and then they're surprised when they don't get any search results. The proper strategy would be to start out with a very broad level. Even if you get 5,000 cases, it doesn't matter. Open that up, use the box on the left-hand side here to narrow your search with additional terms. But anytime you want to go back to any previous level, you can simply uncheck the box in which you put search terms, and that will bring you right back to that previous level. So that's a very easy way to go up and down the levels of searching that you've done. Now, this is just a quick example, but I think it highlights the strategy that you want to take, which is start broad and narrow from there. Understand that you are looking at cases to figure out if these search terms have worked properly. If not, you can go back and adjust your search and use the very powerful connection of the Boolean connectors with the within number, the w/ and then a number connector, along with the truncation device, which will give you the ability to cast a very broad net, but also be very precise about the language and the conversation in which your terms are occurring. So thank you very much. That's an overview of how to do this kind of research. Look for part 3, in which we'll talk about how to use the CaseMaker citators. Thank you.